All right, time to look at our next game with another high total. We have the Tennessee Titans traveling to the Seattle Seahawks. Mm-hmm. We mentioned this earlier in the first segment about the Cowboys and the Chargers, and we talked about this with the weather. This is going to be a weather game. We've got potential of 80% rain.
Yep.
Something to keep in mind with this game.
Yep, it is Seattle.
And it is Seattle. It's going to happen.
It rains up there.
It's Seattle. It's going to rain. So if there's predicting it's going to rain, it's most likely going to rain. It's kind of like Florida. Seattle and Florida, only two I always say, if it's going to rain, it's going to rain. They say it's going to rain, it's going to rain.
Yep.
Seattle is a 5-point favorite in this game, and our total for the game at over-under is 54 right now. Right before we started, it was 54.5. So
okay.
This is a high total.
So I'll be interested to see if that total, drops any more as it gets into Sunday. So, you kind of approach the game, kind of take the weather out a little bit, kind of examine it. But, if the total drops a little bit, that kind of makes you a little bit weather concerned. Not that you can't play some people, but you might kind of change how you approach who you're playing when you do that. Right.
But at the same time, we all know that the way that Seattle plays, they're going to air it out, especially when you let Russ cook. Mm-hmm. And then with the Titans, I think this is what made it interesting to me for this total being so high. Derrick Henry is the driving force of their offense. Right. It's the only way they score points. Mm-hmm. So either A, they believe that the Titans are going to have to throw the ball because they're either behind or they're going to try to get ahead early. Mm-hmm. Or B, they think that Seattle's going to dominate them just like the Cardinals did last week, and they're going to take a second L to an NFC West team.
Right. Well, Titans, they're still getting a 24-point implied total, so there's some production there.
Yeah.
If it a little bit more on the rain side, that kind of makes me like Derrick Henry a little bit more.
Yeah.
I think Seattle's defense, you kind of thinking about a defense to target in a high total game. You got to answer some questions. Is Tennessee that bad that we saw? We don't want to overreact week one. There's people I listen to that think Henry's going to have a down year that some people I respect their opinion, and week one showed that maybe people's goal is to target the box and just be smart and not let him beat you.
What it is too with that is think about this is that the Titans got a new offensive coordinator. So Arthur Smith is over in Atlanta. He took the head coaching job. So he got a new OC, first time being an OC.
New
and
Julio.
So we're trying to new Julio. So we're trying to figure out was it Arthur Smith?
No Jonnu Smith.
Yeah, exactly. No Jonnu Smith, even though Fisker is a better catcher. He's more of a pass catcher in comparison.
But he did, he targeted Jonnu. That's a big part of the offense, so to speak. So
the question is was it Arthur Smith or was it Ryan Tannehill last season? And now we're starting to figure out which one is actually the one that put up those numbers.
Yep.
So
we won't overreact, so
we won't. But that's the thing to think about when it comes to this game. That's the thing that it looks like most people betting against them, and Vegas itself, I think they're looking at that portion. They feel like either that Titans defense, even though they added Bud Dupree, they did not look like they added Bud Dupree last week.
No.
They might be a team that everybody puts numbers up on.
So you start on that side. So if they are putting up numbers, if Tannehill has to throw from behind, if he can, I do think you go back to A.J. Brown. I think he is still to be the number one receiver, a little bit over Julio until they get their range. Julio, he's going to have some games that he explodes. It's still early, still healthy. But I think you go back to A.J. Brown. Henry's the driving force. So if you think Tennessee's going to bounce back, if you think Vrabel's going to get control, then you play Henry. That's the driving force of the offense. You go right back to that focal point. Keep playing him, and you either betting on him or you betting against him.
Yep, and they're going to have to find a way to target Julio Jones. Yes. I mean, A.J. Brown got his targets. He had his 8 targets in that game. Julio had 6, but it felt like they didn't get Julio involved until later in the game.
And, nothing got involved. They just never got out the gate. And,
they did not.
Arizona just they swallowed them up. So, so I think even after week one, we really don't know what we're getting out of Tennessee. We're looking for structure when you're targeting in fantasy, but but we didn't get that. So that makes them all wild card picks. That makes them all players that people are not going to want to play.
Yeah.
But if it's going to be 89% raining, I'm gonna be in the department that don't want to play him and stick with Henry.
I ran a few simulations on Pro Football Focus earlier today, just looking at rosters, and guess who was the top percentage guy at about like 40% of my rosters and my 100 rosters they're made. It's from this game.
Which side?
Seattle.
Oh, if it's on that side, then it is probably Russ and Lockett who they're optimizing, but I think the better play is Metcalf.
Shocking development here. Yeah. Chris Carson is who they picked the number one. And
I'm not surprised, and I was going to get to him because we saw what Edmonds and Connor did together versus Tennessee. You can run on Tennessee. That's actually not that big of a secret. One thing that you're looking for when you're picking at running backs, home favorite in a high total, and Chris Carter fits that bill. They use him. He can touch the ball 20 times, and if it's raining, ball's going to be on the ground. So I do think Chris Carson, he's an excellent player at running back this week on that Seattle side, if we can't target the passing game.
Yeah, he had 16 carries for 91 in his first game of the season, so he had a solid start. He did fumble and lost one in game last week
and,
as
Pete
well.
Carroll gets mad at people too, so
he
does limit people to keep that in mind too. So, but the more it rains, no matter, even if Chris Carson, and we talk about Derrick Henry, the more that if that total begins to drop, it kind of makes you scary, but so that's something to watch leading up into Sunday when you're making your decision. So
exactly, something to keep in mind. So of course you always have to play Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf if you can.
I mentioned
Will Dissly. I feel bad for him. Dissly.
Well, Dustley. Well, it's Disley. Well, he plays Dustley.
Yeah,
Will Dustley.
We'll go with that. I feel bad for him because I think Jared Everett's going to be. He's already the favorite of Russell Wilson. He mentioned that in an article that I read not too long ago.
And of all the spots on the field, the tight end's going to actually have the toughest matchup going against Tennessee. They're running back those receivers just from a DVOA standpoint. Gerald Everett will have the toughest matchup. I mentioned liking him a lot, especially throughout the season. So, just keep that in mind. You pick the best spots on the field and, roll on. Play the spot.
Yeah.
Or fade it if you don't think it's right.
No, that's a good point. That's definitely a good point. Mm-hmm. Back to the Titans before we wrap up. Can A.J. Brown get another touchdown?
Oh, yeah. I think he'd be a better player than Julio this week.
That makes sense.
Yep, for sure.
Pay AJ over Julio.
And eventually Julio's going to have this game. He's going to have this game that, 10 catches, 158 yards, 2 touchdowns. I'd play him against like an AFC. I hadn't looked at their schedule that far ahead. If they play somebody, in the NFC South, somebody he's played before, teams he's beats a lot.
Yeah.
That's when you play him. Just keep that in mind, matchup driven. But AJ Brown, I think, that's Tannehill's guy. Even when they were struggling, he was going to him, and I think you go back to him.
Makes sense.
Go back to him.